what's going on YouTube? Josh here with Cleveland Sports TV, and in today's video I'm going to talk about the Cleveland Browns and their 6 biggest positional needs going into this offseason, as this offseason is quickly approaching, and it's more of an exciting offseason for us Browns fans. I know a lot of years it's like, which quarterback are we going to take, or who are we going to take number 1 overall or top 5, whatever it may be. This year it's a little different. We're picking at number 17, obviously, with the Browns going 7-9-1 last year. We seem to have a franchise quarterback at the helm, so we don't really need to think quarterback. And it's more so one of those cases where we can be, you know, in the position to kind of take best player available. So why did I pick top 6 needs? Well, that's because Baker Mayfield was number 6, and Baker Mayfield's the GOAT. Probably already better than Tom Brady, but that's neither here nor there. Yeah. Anyways, so yes, this video, top 6 positional needs. I'm going to go in order from bottom to top. I'm really excited about this offseason, man. John Dorsey just seems like he has made every right move. And if you go back and look at his resume and some of his past drafts, he always seems to find a stud somewhere in those middle rounds. I'll go back and look at last year, a guy, for example, in Jannard Avery, one of the best players drafted last year that nobody talks about. Looks like he's going to be a staple for this defense for years to come. But yeah, John Dorsey just seems to be making all the right moves, and I couldn't be more excited about this offseason. So let's get into the video. Top 6 positional needs for this coming up offseason. NFL draft, free agency, or via trade. Let's get to it. Is that the offense is there. If Baker Mayfield is the franchise quarterback, if he's going to be an all-pro type quarterback, an all-time great for this franchise, he's going to be able to make wide receivers around him better, and we were able to see that last year. Rashad Higgins really turned it up last year. Bashard Perriman came in. He just seemed like he couldn't fit anywhere. He came in, instantly connected with Baker. Jarvis Landry's numbers with Baker and Freddie Kitchens just skyrocketed through the roof. Antonio Callaway showed signs of brilliances. Even Damian Ratley, who I hope we don't see back next year. Sorry, Damian. But you get what I'm saying. So I just don't think wide receiver is the biggest need. And I think there are some decent wide receivers who we can get in rounds 3 through 7 next year. I already made a video on that, top 5 wide receiver steals. I'll link that in this video description below. Make sure you check that out. But yes, number 6, wide receiver. We're going to move on to number 5. I'm going to go with cornerback. I get it. We have a couple good cornerbacks on the roster. Denzel Ward, Carey, who was a decent slot guy for us last year, and a few other pieces, but we need more depth. And I wouldn't be mad if we somehow went out and stole a cornerback from a team, a cornerback that's, you know, getting up in age, maybe contracts a little bit too high for that team's liking, and John Dorsey can find a way to snag a true number 2 corner who can go opposite of Denzel Ward, get up in your face, play man-to-man coverage, and really just lock down a wide receiver. So yes, I do think we need depth at wide receiver, but I also think we need a truer number 2. I know I'm getting picky here because we already have what looks to be a solid number 1 in Denzel Ward, but I wouldn't be mad to get a sure shit number 2 corner to go opposite of Denzel Ward for, you know, the next 3 to 4 years. Pierre Desir is a guy who comes to mind. He is a guy who could hit free agency this year if the Colts somehow let him go. Pierre Desir is a guy who the Browns drafted in, I think, round 5 a few years back, who just really came on for the Indianapolis Colts last year. So if he's able to hit free agency, I wouldn't mind taking a look at him. I'm not sure what his cost would be because, like I said, he's coming off a big year, and cornerback's one of those coveted positions. But if we can just add some more cornerback depth, and if we really want to be greedy, add another cornerback who can be a solid staple on this defense opposite of Denzel Ward for the next few years to come. We'll move on to number 4. Number 4, I'm going to say left tackle. I do like what we did last year at left tackle, adding Greg Robinson. We also drafted Austin Corbett, who they believe can play the position. They're really trying to figure out where he's going to be best at. Young guy, learning behind, you know, he's not having to be thrown into the fire, building, he's putting on weight, better footwork, so on and so forth. But I don't know if we can trust our left tackles who we have currently on the roster to be a franchise, you know, sort of left tackle. Obviously, we all love Baker Mayfield, and if you don't love Baker Mayfield, then, you know, I don't really know what I can do for you. But for those of you who do, we need to protect him. Obviously, left tackle, the blind side, we need a staple there. We're so used to seeing Joe Thomas, and maybe I'm just being picky here because Joe Thomas has been there for so long, and we're just so used to seeing him there in the Pro Bowl. He's going to make the Hall of Fame. But is Greg Robinson the guy? Loved what I saw out of him last year. He had the best games of his career with us last year. The Browns only gave up 2 sacks in the final, I think, 4 to 6 weeks of the year last year. Something crazy like that. But I'm just like I said, I just don't know if I trust our left tackle position long term as it stands right now. So if we were to go left tackle in rounds 1 or 2, I wouldn't be pissed about it. I do want the Browns to go defense in rounds 1 and 2, but if they do go left tackle, one guy that comes to mind for me is Greg Little. I believe that's out of Ole Miss. Gosh, correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, left tackle, number 4. Let's move on to number 3, defensive end, and this is a position where I think we can address quickly in free agency. Emmanuel Ogbah's kind of been a letdown. I know after year 1, a lot of Browns fans were excited for Emmanuel Ogbah. He seemed to show signs of brilliance, great body, great physical ability, but he just hasn't really risen to that. Josh Rosen? I don't know. He really hasn't rose to the potential that I thought we would see from him. He's kind of just really leveled out. I think we're in year 3 with Emmanuel Ogbah. Could be year 4 next year. I'm not even sure. But I don't see him as a staple long-term fit for the Cleveland Browns at left tackle. I know there's been rumors in Berea about maybe him even moving to D tackle for depth purposes, especially with Jannard Avery being able to get to the quarterback, bringing him in on 3rd down, passing down situations, moving Ogbah to D tackle. I know it might be confusing some of you guys, but it just seems to be that Emmanuel Ogbah will not be the long-term fit opposite side of Myles Garrett at defensive end. 2 guys who look like they're going to be hitting free agency. Not look to be hitting free agency. It's pretty much a foregone conclusion that they're going to be hitting free agency. 2 guys that are that I have in mind that I think the Browns should pounce on. One of them, Trey Flowers, the defensive end from the New England Patriots. Absolute phenomenal player, great year. Obviously, he's coming from a Super Bowl winning team with the Super Bowl winning pedigree. I think he would bring so much to this defense. Obviously, the price tag would be high, but the Browns have so much cap room, and I'm one of those guys who I say don't waste all this cap. Don't just blow all this cap money, because we have a team full of 21 to 23 to 24-year-old players, so we're going to have to pay a lot of these guys at some point. So I don't want to blow through the cap, but there is room to spend, and if we are going to spend, I really would like to spend at defensive end. The second guy that I had in mind was Frank Clark from Seattle. So we have Frank Clark and Trey Flowers. I really hope the Browns snag one of those 2 guys, because it looks like they will be hitting free agency. And if they can add one of those 2 guys to go opposite side of Myles Garrett, I think it would instantly turn this defense into a top 10, top 12 caliber defense, just purely because they're going to be able to get to the quarterback at will, it would seem. I mean, I just don't see how they wouldn't. You got Ogunjobi up the middle, who's phenomenal defensive tackle pass rusher, and then Myles Garrett, who might be one of the better ones in the league, Trey Flowers and Frank Clark. I mean, it's just a great pedigree. But let's move on to number 2, because I don't want to have this video be too long for us. Number 2, outside linebacker. Now, I know we have a couple names already. Jannard Avery comes to mind. We drafted him last year, even though I see him more as an edge rusher, especially on 3rd down playing that defensive end position. He lacks a little bit of talent in the pass coverage game, covering tight ends and such. I know he's a rookie. He could get better, but I just see him as a pass rush guy in general. We have Jamie Collins, who I hope the Browns just cut ties with, save themselves a bunch of money. He's a guy to me who just, it looks like he takes too many plays off. He's not passionate about playing. I always see him trailing behind plays going to the opposite sides, not hustling. I just am not in love with Jamie Collins. We do have Christian Kirksey. I think a lot of people are forgetting about him. Went down with an injury last year. He was having a Pro Bowl season the year before. He had a good start to this season. So let's not forget about Christian Kirksey. I think he's a staple. I think we can hold on to him, and he's definitely a difference maker. But I need somebody on the either the opposite side or somebody else who can play in the pass coverage game, who can cover the sweeps, the edge rush, Lamar Jackson if he was to scramble. We need somebody else who's just an absolute staple who can cover, who can do it all at the outside linebacker position. I think it's one of our huge weaknesses. If a lot of you guys remember, for all of you guys who watched every single Browns game, the Browns went through like a 4 to 6 week period where they were just getting killed by tosses, by sweeps, reverses, stuff that you would see in Madden, and the Browns just couldn't cover it because they lacked that outside linebacker position, especially with Kirksey going down. There was no speed there, and it was just ugly. So I think outside linebacker is our second biggest need. Pretty close to defensive end, though. Let's move on to number 1, and this is without a doubt what I believe is the absolute biggest need for the Cleveland Browns, and that is defensive tackle. I'm just going to make a, I'll just get to it quick. The Ravens ran for 300 plus yards against us in week 17 with a healthy defense minus Christian Kirksey. We see the Ravens twice a year. The Ravens also have Lamar Jackson. They have a great offensive line, and they just seem to run the ball every single year at will. And to me, I'm one of those believers that if Lamar Jackson is the future, Lamar Jackson and that team and just that championship pedigree franchise, they're not going to go anywhere. So if we're going to have to battle it out with Baltimore Ravens on a year-in, year-out basis, we have to stop the run. We cannot let them rush for 300 yards against us. Larry Ogunjobi, a great defensive tackle, but he's more of a pass-rushing defensive tackle. He's not huge. He's not bulky. He's not going to clog up the middle. Like I said, the Browns finished bottom 3, bottom 4 or so in rush defense as a whole. So that's why you see my top 3 positions are all pretty much front 7 positions. And I just really think the Browns' biggest weakness is stopping the run. So defensive tackle number 1, and I really hope that the Browns go defensive tackle in round 1. Christian Wilkins comes to mind for me. Ed Oliver, even though he kind of reminds me of Ogunjobi a little bit, but there are just a plethora of D tackles in this year's draft, especially in round 1. I think we can get a top 5, top 10 talent at pick 17 at the defensive tackle position, and I think it's a position that we need to tackle quickly. So here's my dream scenario, Browns fans. The Browns in free agency either pick up Trey Flowers or Frank Clark, and I know right now, according to Vegas and odds makers, Frank Clark is the odds-on favorite to land with the Cleveland Browns, and boy, would that be a blessing. So the Browns either add Frank Clark or Trey Flowers at defensive end, and then they go in round 1 and draft a defensive tackle, and I think that right there instantly flips this defense around in 1 year. They can also go out and sign a guy like Anthony Barr from Minnesota, somebody who comes to mind at the outside linebackers position. There's a few others as well, but like I said, I don't want to have this video be too long, but man, I just get so damn excited talking about Browns football, baby. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Go Browns. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up button if you like what you see. Subscribe if you would like to see more Cleveland sports content, Cleveland Browns content, whatever it may be. And don't be afraid to comment in the comment section below what your thoughts are, what you think I'm wrong about, what you would switch, what your top 6 would be. Just, you know, a nice discussion, because that's what this is really all about. But once again, guys, thank you for watching, and yeah, peace.